And welcome back to the workshop for another edition of time trial training tips with my coach Arek.
Hello everyone.
Today we are going to talk about specific workouts that I do to improve my time trialing. We have selected a few of them just to give you an example of the things that I focus on and what you could also use for your preparation. So Arek, what workouts are the best for me right now in this preparation phase?
Yeah, so what we were covering with Ronnie, so it is about both maintaining your aerobic fitness and your FTP, and also building along your strength and your anaerobic system, so that every system which is working to improve your energy and to give energy for time trialing is important. So that what we do right now with Ronnie is combination of FTP with acceleration. I will go through every workout and tell you about the physiology behind it and why is it important to do it to improve your time trial. So the first one is FTP on flat plus zone 6 acceleration. And it starts with 30-minute warm-up in zone 1 to zone 2 with pretty comfortable cadence around 90. And then you build up your effort with 5 minutes at FTP. Important to every warm-up when building up will be main phase. So in here, but it is of course shorter and of lower intensity a little. So this workout aims for 2 times 10 minutes in main set. So it is building up to 20 minutes on flat with intensity of 95 to 100% of FTP. So if your FTP is, let's say, 300 watts, it will be the effort between 285 to 300, cadence around 90 to 95, but it can be even higher if you are comfortable with that. But normally the highest effectiveness of cadence is around this. And after 5 minutes of each repetition, you are performing 30-second acceleration in zone 6. And the goal of this is to build the lactate, which is also taking place during time trial, especially when you are going out of the corner, or if there is a small hill which you have to do fast, so that you are building up that lactate. And we are simulating this also here. So we are not only doing the FTP, but also building up the lactate to learn muscles to take it out during the effort. And then we are going back to riding at threshold. And this is the basic version of the workout. Now Ronnie is doing more of them. But for the beginners or semi-advanced of you who are trying to be better in time trialing, I am suggesting 2 times 10 minutes, especially if you are performing such efforts before. So sweet spot and FTP like this. And all of those efforts, which are aiming into your TT, I would be preparing on time trial bike also, because it is important to perform such efforts in time trial position, in aerodynamic position, because muscles are working differently. And also you have to hold your position so that the neck, the arms, the head, and stuff like this. So this is from physiology part, and now Ronnie will tell you how it feels on the road.
This is a very hard workout, particularly the part with the acceleration. It's just really, because riding a threshold for 10 minutes in itself is not so demanding usually if your zones are set right, but having this thing in the middle makes it a lot harder. But I think we'll see good progress from this one, because it's very close to an actual race effort where you have to put in a small acceleration, crest a small climb, or just cross a part of road where the resistance is higher with the wind or something like that, or out of a corner. So it's very realistic. I do it always on the time trial bike, as Arek said, because we need to be specific what I'm doing. Of course, it will be much easier on a road bike in the road position, but that's not what we are looking for here. but overall, very, very solid piece of work. If you do increase it, then later on, I did 3 last time, 3 sets of these, maybe 4 or 5. We'll progress with that, and it will give you a good base for those time trials efforts for sure.
Yeah, I would also progress with this effort due to your time trial length. So if your A event is around 40 minutes, let's say, I will build up to 4 times 10. And then I would, what I would do to make it even harder is cutting the time of rest.
Recovery.
So apart from 8 minutes of recovery, it will be 4 minutes or even 2 minutes between the efforts. So this is the first workout. The next one is very nice. I like it. This is pulse. So this is the maintaining your and especially when you go out from the gym or you are doing the specific strength on the bike, it is building the dynamic strength, which is also useful on the time trial bike after the corners during the start to build up fast the speed and also during the intervals which are taking place in time trial. So what we are doing is the warm-up, once again 20-30 minutes, and during the warm-up we are performing sprints 2 times 200 meters at 90% of maximum. I am not putting the exact wattage during sprints because simply you cannot look at it. With some reserve to build up of neuromuscular power for the main part. And the main part is 30-second pulse. So we are starting with the hardest gear possible, going on the flat for about 15 kilometers per hour. So really, really slow. And we are starting, when the main part is starting, we are starting to putting the highest wattage possible. So 600, 700, 800, or even more, depending how strong your legs are. And we are putting that maximum effort for 30 seconds. And the goal is that from this 15 kilometers per hour, we are building the speed for 50, 55, even 60 kilometers per hour, depending on your maximum wattage. But generally it is, and everything should be done sitting on the saddle because we want to build up the muscles in this position. And we are doing the long recovery intervals between. So 30-second effort and 5-minute intervals to rest. And when we are making those pulls, try to push with our legs only, keep your upper body loose and hands preferably in the upper grip. So it means that the hands and palms are only lying on the bar. It's not like holding them very tight so that we don't use the back muscles or abdominals very strong, but we only use the legs to push. And the same with building the strength, but we will go to this. And from very beginning of the pulse, we are pressing to the maximum. And the pulse here is irrelevant. We are only basing on power, but we also don't look at it. It's just the maximum. So the most important is to push, like we have the cadence here, 50, to push it like 110, 120, 130, the cadence in the end of the effort. And Ronnie, how you feel those pulls on the road?
Well, it's probably not my strength if you look at my physiology, but it's a nice workout to do because it's something quite different than the other ones. So it's a nice mix-up, and also it's very close to track cycling, so that's also why I like it. But I think I improved a lot in this part, and I managed to hit around 500-600 watts in these. So I think we're making good progress here as well. But I like to do this on the road bike because the position is not so relevant here. It's just about the muscle strength.
This one is good to do on the road bike and on the normal bike because with this tight on the time trial bike, it's quite hard to manage that workout. So the next one is time trial FTP over under. So it is also some combination of FTP with going to a little zone 5 or higher zone 4. So it is a combination of 95% to 105% of FTP. So going under, over, under, over, under, over. So that it is also maintaining our speed and building up the FTP. And it is also simulating what is going on during the normal time trial effort. So when you hit the wind or the crosswind, you have to put some time. The wind is going down, the water is also lower. But the average is around FTP. So this one is around 12 minutes, the total effort. And after warm up, we are building up in the pyramid phase. So every 3 minutes, we are building up the power from 60 to 70, 80, 90% of FTP. Then we do the recovery. And the main part we are performing on a flat surface mostly. But if we are preparing also to the course, which is hilly, we can do it on the hill. But the most important is that there is not a big downhill. So like 30 seconds or above, because it will lower the power which we are generating. So the recovery between the efforts is 10 minutes. It's good for the beginning to do it, but later on we can cut it to 5 minutes or even lower. But the most important here is to hold 2 minutes on just under the FTP and 1 minute over. So in this example, we are pushing like 305, 320, 305, 320, and we are continuing this during 12 minutes. And I would build it up to also more or less the time of your A event in time trial, and the recovery will be shorter and shorter if we are closer to the A event. And Ronnie, your feelings?
Well, this is a real classic for time trialing. I think everyone into time trialing knows this kind of workout, and it's also very close to the actual effort. It's a hard one for sure, mentally and physically, but yeah, we need to suffer a little bit if we want to improve, particularly for this type of event. So it's not something you want to do every day, probably, because it's very intense, but it's a good one to have for sure. Also,
also it's important to mention, sorry for interrupting you, important to mention that you are beginning to implementing such hard workouts into your training program. It would be good to start from 2 workouts per week of such intensity, and other ones will be recovery or endurance. But when you are building up and you are more advanced, you can go to 3 or even 4 during the week, but not more, because it will not improve your form, but will decrease it in the long term. Maybe a few weeks you can sustain it, but then if you are trying to hitting such zones too often, you will be overtrained, and this is what we don't want to achieve.
Yeah. So as always, progression is very important here with this high intensity effort. Okay. Yeah. Let's have a look at the next one.
Yeah, the next one is also what I really like. It's mostly designed to do in the period of the year, which is like 8 to 10 weeks before the starting of the racing calendar, which actually is right now because of the pandemic, but normally it will be done
earlier
just earlier, just after the winter. So generally transmitting the power from the gym and from the muscle strength to the bike, and this is the first phase of doing this. So generally we are trying to do the muscle strength in the VO2 max zone, so zone 5. It will be the effort between 3 to 8 minutes. If you are never doing such an effort, start from 3 minutes and you can build it up. But generally, the goal is to have really low cadence, even between 55 to 60. If you are never doing such a low cadence and high intensity, start with higher one, like 70 to 75, and you can lower that after this. And the terrain, most preferably, is very steep uphill. So 10% or more of the steepness. But if you don't have it, you can try with on the flat surface and going into the wind. Sometimes it's not. Sometimes it's not even enough. And I know also riders who are pushing the brakes into the headwind because it's not generating. They are not generating too much enough power. But generally, what you want to do is to hit, let's say, in this example, 4 times 5 minutes in 106 to 110% of FTP, and up to 120 because this is most of the times the end of the zone 5 zone. And what we want to achieve here is pedaling only by pushing the pedals down, not pulling them up, and the upper body is relaxed. You work only with your legs. So the same with, as we said, with the pulse. So we are only putting the hands loosely on the bar, and we are not holding them very, very firm. So most of the effort we are doing in the sitting position, and may last 20-30 seconds. We can stand up to build also another muscle parts, so the glutes and the hamstrings. And we are paying attention here to constant leg muscle pressure. So try to find the heel or the surface on the flat which is not having downhill, because what we want to achieve here is like in the gym. So putting the same pressure on the muscles during all the workout. And the heart rate here is not relevant because most of the time heart rate is going down because the cadence is low, so it is not engaging the nervous system so much.
Yeah, so actually this is one of my favorite workouts, probably. I have a hill where I always do it, and I do repetitions of that again on the road bike, and
yeah.
It's a nice one to do because it passes time quickly. You go up and down, and you can get a really high quality workout with not much time, really. And yeah.
And how do you feel your legs after this?
Yeah, there's some soreness for sure if you do it properly. I also started with cadences around 65, 70. Now I can go even like around 50, 55 when I'm fresh. So it's quite good. But I would add that it's important to also focus on the high power, because if you just do this like some amateur riders that, okay, they have the low cadence but there's not high power next to that, then it doesn't really make much sense.
Yeah, it's just building up the fatigue, but it's not building up the strength in the muscle. This is what I tell. Because in the ancient time in cycling, there was a workout like go 5-6 hours, the biggest gear possible, and it will build your shape. But actually, after the last physiology test, it is not true anymore. So the last but not least, workout is sustaining your aerobic zone. I think this one is really important in your time trialing, what we were mentioning in the previous chapters of our interviews. So what I suggest to do is doing the long aerobic endurance during the weekend when you have longer time to do. And the goals here are to build up the CTL, because you will build higher TSSs, and also to maintain your aerobic power and power generated on the aerobic threshold. So you are looking for the average cadence around 86 to 95, but also try not to go all the time the same cadence. Try to alternate it every 10 to 15 minutes and going sometime over or under the comfortable cadence. So go sometimes to 70, sometimes to 110, so that you are working out also on this element of time trialing. And what I suggest to do also here, for 4 hours, I don't suggest for most of the riders to go on time trial bike. It's good to mix it up. So here, for example, I suggest to do the second half of the training on the time trial bike and first time on the road one. So it's also because of that that when you are a little tired after the first 2 hours, on the second one, the body is also looking for most economic way to generate power. So this one is also important from this fact. And this is also the workout which Ronnie is enjoying a lot. Yeah.
Yes, I think it's one of my strong points. To go for these long rides, I can still hit pretty good power, and particularly this year, because in the previous years my endurance rides were ending like up to 3.5 hours. Now I can do 4, 5. I could possibly do more, but there's not much point. But anyway, now I'm more mentally used to it, so I like it, particularly when the weather is nice, and sometimes I change the bikes halfway through, so it's a nice change of pace compared to the intervals.
Yeah, and also mentally it is nice to rest from the intervals and do some aerobic. And also don't forget that in time trialing, it is not only the pure power which is important, but it is also all of this is built up on your aerobic engine. So the stronger your aerobic engine is, the stronger your FTP will be and the anaerobic power, and in the end the average speed on the event, which is the most important fact for most of you who are training time trial. So thank you very much. This is all what we have for you today.
Yeah, thanks you, Arek, for presenting these workouts. I really enjoyed doing them. Maybe apart from the 30-second pulls, those are just very hard, but we have to suffer a little bit. So we'll keep doing these, and we'll keep stretching my ability, hopefully. As for
and also I want to add, if you want those workouts, please email me. The email is down below the video, and I will send it to your training peaks.
Yeah, for sure. These will be available, same as the training plan we have prepared for the beginner to advanced time trialist. That is also available now, and yeah, you can take advantage of the knowledge we're gathering here. Okay, Arek, thanks a lot for your time, and we'll see you in the next one. Bye.
Goodbye.